guys, so it is a Friday afternoon here, and obviously the sun's straight in my eyes. I just finished planting the first 3 rows of basically cool weather crops. Some of them will actually be done by mid-June, and we'll plant something else in their place. I generally don't do a cool weather crop just because oftentimes we have so much rain this time of year that we're not able to pull that off, and so we end up having real issues there. It just happened that we had a few dry days, so we were able to go ahead and till, and so I'm going to turn this around and just let you see what we've got, and then also talk a little bit about planting what you can manage. So here we go, turn it around. There we go. Okay, so these are the first 3 rows that I've worked on here, and in this row, so I did a combination of rows. Some of them are running this direction, and some of them are running this way, just to kind of keep the trying to keep the different plants apart, and just because I thought it would add interest to my garden. So in this first section, I divided this section up into, I think, 4 parts. No, 5. So I have some broccoli here, several little rows of broccoli to here, and then after that I have Swiss chard. We eat a lot of Swiss chard in our house, or at least I do. I love it. It's so good with some basil and a little bit of garlic sauteed in butter. Oh, so good. And then we did cabbage. So I make my own sauerkraut, so I definitely can use cabbage. I like it fresh as well. And then I did something that I haven't done in the past, and that is turnips, which are in this section here, and rutabagas. Now, I will actually eat them. I don't know how many my family will eat, so it's more of a trial thing for us this year. But this year there's 3, myself and my 3 children, and then 2, 3, 4, 5 other adults that will be eating out of this garden. So we're, definitely, and a good portion of those will actually be working in the garden as well with me. So we want to make sure that we have plenty for everyone. In the next row, I did this first section here, from about here to here, with rows across. And I did that in spinach. Now, spinach tends to bolt really fast once it gets hot, and so it's definitely not a cool weather crop. I mean, it's not a hot weather crop. So there wasn't any point in me planting a ton of it. It'll be something that we use, when it starts to bolt, and by bolt I mean it's going to grow up big and tall and lanky and start putting out flowers, and at that point you can't use it anymore. So I did just that little section of that. Now, my dad and a couple of the folks that are eating with us love greens, and so the bulk of this row here is in collard greens and kale. The collards and the kale will make it through the entire summer as long as we don't get eaten up by aphids. Aphids are probably the bane of my existence. Alright, I think we're still going. Let's see here. Yeah, so collard, what I was saying is aphids are the bane of my existence in terms of collards and kale, so I really have to stay on those, and sometimes I lose my collards and kale and have to plant again. But we'll try to stay on top of that this year. Down here, I did a little section of beets. I happen to love beets. So it's not going to be a ton, but it'll be enough for us to have a few meals of... Give me just a second. Hey, boys. So my guys have been helping me, but they also were engaged in an activity, and they're all excited about it. Anyway, we don't eat a ton of beets, but this will give us enough. This next row is lettuce. Again, lettuce tends to bolt really quickly, and so I only did one end of it. Then the next portion of it are sweet peas. We'll see how those work. I haven't done them before, but we love sweet peas, so I'm hoping we have a great harvest. And then at the end here we have some more lettuce. So those are the 3 rows that I've done. Now I think I said it before, and I'm actually going to post some pictures in the next little bit of how I do my crop rotation. So every single year I've planted, so this next row here will have sweet potatoes, and then after that we'll have, sweet peppers, and then after that will be sweet potatoes, and then after that will be tomatoes. Now, the last time we planted, they were one back, and one back. So this row that last year, or 2 years ago, when we planted, it was sweet peppers. So it's now going to be, once this cold weather crop comes in, we'll plant it in zucchini and okra. So there was a picture that was going around about a victory garden, and they had like this much of this and this much of that, and I will tell you that it was a little bit unrealistic in terms of what a family's going to eat. So I just want to remind you that you want to plant what you're going to eat and what you're going to use, or what you could sell. You don't want to plant stuff that you're not going to use and that you're just going to go to waste, because then you're going to put all this work into it and it's going to go to waste. There's very little here that goes to waste. We either eat it during the summer or we put it up, or there's certainly times that when I know somebody needs it, I'll give it away. So there's very little in this garden that will ever go to waste, but not everybody wants this much. So I just want to encourage you. You can go to a little square foot garden. A lot of people do that, and I'll give you an example. See if I can see it here. So you can see kind of the indentions here along this row. There's one here, and then one over there, and one there. They're not very far apart, but we have packed a ton of lettuce into this little section of, it's in 2.5, 3 feet across and maybe 4 feet wide. You can do that with a raised bed. You can plant your things a little closer, and as long as you give them good fertilizer, good food, and keep the soil healthy, you can plant them closer together, much closer than like our parents used to do. So we'll say more over the course of this year. Of course, there's already lots of videos on YouTube, and I shared that link earlier today, and certainly encourage you to use those if you have any questions about how to start a small garden. Feel free to ask. I'd be happy to answer some of your questions, or to put you in contact with some folks that can help you as well. So anyway, you also may notice the soil, there's little white dots. That is clover. So I never leave my soil that isn't planted, I never leave it just raw land. And the reason for that is that there's a lot of ecology, there's a lot of living things in the soil itself. And those living things create a symbiotic relationship to the roots of the plants. And so if you leave the soil without anything growing in it for a long time, it will kill all those microbes. So pretty much we till and immediately cover it again. So this row here with the clover seeds on it, it's going to have peppers, and so the clover is not going to be hard at all for me to put peppers into that soil. Like, I'll be able to dig into it easily, and the peppers will just be like over top of the clover, because the clover doesn't come up high, and that will give a nice cover crop there. So in the same way with the other rows that also have clover. So that's part of what I do just to keep my soil healthy and good. Anyway, I hope that you guys have a great weekend. I hope that it is beautiful where you're at, as it is here. It's chilly, but it's beautiful. And I just wish you a very blessed weekend. That, of course, I believe that our Savior died and was buried and rose again this weekend many years ago. So when I plant the garden, I'm always remembering that the seeds are much like him and much like us. When we die to ourselves, we're buried in the soil, and then we come up new creatures, and we come up yielding good fruit. And that's my goal with the garden. And I love all the things we can learn from the garden and from growing, and from being part of just that cycle of with the weather and being attached to the earth. So I hope that during this time, as you consider growing a garden or considering growing just some plants on your patio, that you will learn from it and that you will have some wonderful insights, personal insights in the process. Anyway, be blessed, guys, and have a good one.